Story 1. The Posthumous Marriage. In a small village in rural China, this horror story begins on a gloomy day. Jing, an ordinary farmer, was eagerly awaiting the birth of his first child with a mix of happiness and anxiety. He was working in another province and couldn't make it back in time for the birth. On the day of the childbirth, the joy was short-lived and turned into tragedy. His wife, Yang Ni, after struggling for many hours in labor, died from excessive blood loss. However, she successfully gave birth to a beautiful baby before passing away. Jing hurried home after receiving the news. However, by the time he arrived, it was too late. The child, having never felt the warmth of her parents' embrace, was heartlessly thrown into a deep well in their yard by her grandmother, who valued male heirs over females and refused to accept a granddaughter as a successor. In a fit of rage and despair, Jing fiercely confronted his mother. Though cold, she was also in pain and admitted her guilt, explaining that the girl could not bring luck to the family according to her outdated beliefs. In desperation, she proposed a terrifying solution: a posthumous marriage. This wedding was to wed the souls of Jiang Ni and the child with the soul of another deceased person, hoping to bring peace to both in the afterlife. Despite his heartache, Jing saw a glimmer of hope that this could be a way to honorably send off his wife and child. He agreed to the plan. They found another family who had lost their only son in an accident not long before. Both families began preparations for the posthumous marriage between the two young souls. On the night of the ghost marriage, the village was enveloped in thick darkness, lit only by the flickering light from lanterns hanging around the ceremony area. The villagers, though uneasy, gathered around to witness the ritual. Jing stood beside the two small coffins, staring intently at the pale face of his unfortunate wife and the smaller coffin beside her. As blessings were read, a cold wind blew, swaying the lanterns. A tall figure in a black cloak emerged from the shadows, approaching the posthumous marriage area. This person, with fiery red eyes and an emotionless face, stood silently watching the coffins. The villagers panicked and retreated, none daring to approach. The mysterious figure slowly scattered a white powder around the coffins and disappeared into the night without a trace. In the days that followed, the village was shrouded in a gloomy atmosphere. The fruit on the trees suddenly withered, and the well water became murky. A strange disease quickly spread through the village, starting with high fever and dry cough, then leading to severe lung damage. No one in the village escaped the devastation of the disease, from the elderly to the young. Jing, after losing his family, tried to seek help from neighboring villages, but to no avail. Doctors called to the village could not determine the cause or find a cure. All efforts were in vain. The villagers gradually died tragically, and their deaths were foreshadowed by nightmares of a figure in a black cloak with fiery red eyes. When the disease finally subsided, there were no survivors left in the village. People from neighboring villages who came to visit found only a desolate village, empty houses, and traces of an unsuccessful posthumous marriage everywhere. Story 2. The Polterabend Peril. In the bustling atmosphere of the affluent suburb in Germany, Lisa and Johann were preparing for Polterabend, a significant tradition on the eve of their wedding where friends and family would throw broken porcelain to ward off evil spirits and bring luck to the couple. Johann's century-old house was splendidly decorated, ready for a sleepless night. As the sun set, the sounds of laughter and breaking porcelain echoed throughout the garden. However, in a moment of jubilation, Lisa accidentally shattered a glass that had been carefully placed in front of Johann's house. The loud crash interrupted the noise, and suddenly the atmosphere tensed. Johann looked at the broken glass, his face pale. In their culture, breaking glass on Polterabend was a bad omen, an invitation to dark spirits. Johann tried to reassure Lisa, saying everything would be fine, but his eyes betrayed his worry. The night continued with music and laughter, but Lisa couldn't shake off a feeling of unease, catching worried glances from guests aware of the broken glass's significance. As the night deepened, fog enveloped the villa. The sound of the wind whistling through the trees sounded like whispers. Lisa felt a chilling sensation around her, as if someone was watching her from the shadows. She tried to ignore it, but saw a dark figure dart past the window. After the guests had left and the party ended, Johann and Lisa prepared to go inside to rest. As they opened the door, they stopped abruptly. Inside, everything was in disarray, as if a storm had passed through. Their faces turned pale when they realized that no one else had a key. They had to move to another room temporarily. At midnight, a knocking sound came from the bedroom door. Johann looked through the peephole but saw only dense darkness. They dared not open the door, yet the knocking continued, each time louder. Lisa sobbed silently in fear, while Johann tried to stay calm, figuring out how to protect them. Suddenly, a long, mournful scream reverberated through the house, shaking the windows and causing the lights to flicker. Everything went quiet, as if the nightmare had stopped. Lisa and Johann couldn't believe it, but knew they had to leave. They quickly packed their things, deciding to leave the villa for a safer place until they could resolve the situation. In the darkness, they got into their car and drove off, not daring to look back at the house. The streets were deserted, only the sound of rustling leaves under the moonlight. When they reached a small hotel on the outskirts of the city, they were exhausted and anxious. Lisa and Johann quickly entered their room, locked the door, and tried to sleep, but they knew their long night was far from over. Around 3 a.m, a gentle knock woke them. Johann looked through the peephole but saw no one. When he turned back to bed, Lisa pointed to a corner of the room. A vague figure stood silently, dressed in a pristine white wedding gown, but the face of the bride was indistinct, just a pitch-black void. Both were so terrified they couldn't even scream. Waking from the nightmare, Lise now sat silently in a chair as makeup artists prepared her. When the wedding dress was brought out, Lisa was shocked to discover a child-sized handprint on it, marked in blood. Terrified by the series of ghostly events, Lisa immediately called off the wedding, leaving behind the astonishment of her family, friends, and future husband. Lisa boarded her private jet to return home, her frustration evident. Although she loved Johann, she feared ghosts and spirits more. She knew her action of breaking the glass had angered the spirits and refused to let the marriage happen. At the wedding, both families erupted into a fierce argument. In the groom's room, Johann slowly savored each sip of wine, trembling with joy. His carefully crafted plan had finally succeeded splendidly. As it was merely a marriage of economic convenience, he didn't care much, but Lisa's personality greatly annoyed him. Johann knew Lisa believed in spirituality more than anyone, and she could cancel an entire wedding just out of fear of the strange. Johann confessed to a close friend that he had fabricated everything, from the broken glass to the hallucinations Lisa experienced. It seemed everything would end there, but night after night, both Johann and Lisa were awakened by nightmares. Each time, a blood-stained hand would appear on the window in their room. The sleepless nights continued to haunt Johann as he began to realize that what he created might have disturbed some unexplainable force. Johann, though trying to reassure himself that it was just a coincidence, found the handprints, shadows, and strange footsteps every night, almost driving him mad. On a stormy night, as lightning flashed through the window, the shadow of that hand appeared again, clearer than ever. Johann realized something. He could deceive everyone else but not his own conscience, nor the forces he had inadvertently or intentionally summoned. Realizing he couldn't handle the problem alone, Johann finally reached out to Lisa, who had tried to contact him after leaving. He confessed everything to her, not just about the deception, but also what he was experiencing. Lisa, though still angry, felt a bit of sympathy when she heard about Johann's current situation. After some discussion, the two decided to seek help from a renowned medium. The medium advised them that to prevent further bad omens, the person who broke the glass at the 𝐒𝐿𝐷, 𝐒𝐨𝐜𝐢𝐚, must die, or else all participants of the ceremony would suffer death or severe misfortune. Chilled to the bone by this revelation, Johann, deeply concerned, decided to look for another way to resolve the situation without resorting to extreme measures. They prayed and performed several other rituals as directed by the medium, hoping to find forgiveness and appease the spirits. But things did not go as planned. While 𝐒𝐈 was alone in the house, an unknown figure broke into her room. The incident happened too quickly and was extremely brutal. When Johann returned, he only found 𝐒𝐈 lifeless. Distraught and panicking, Johann called the police, but all evidence pointed to him as the primary suspect. Johann was arrested and after a tense trial was sentenced to death despite being innocent. Their friends, aware of the medium's prophecy, still couldn't explain the actions of the mysterious assailant. The perpetrator acted alone and left no clues about the motive or real reason behind the murder. As time passed, the truth about 𝐒𝐈's death remained a mystery. The members of their friend group, despite their efforts to uncover the truth, could not find any answers. The murder case not only left a deep impact on everyone, but also served as a painful lesson about the ease of wrongful accusations and the consequences of thoughtless actions. Johann, though wrongfully convicted, tried to maintain his spirits in prison, hoping that someday the truth would be revealed. He constantly thought about 𝐒𝐈 and what might have happened if they had never held that 𝐒𝐿𝐷. But now it was too late, and all he could do was wait and hope. Meanwhile, darkness continued to loom over the house where it all began, and the mysteries remained unresolved, sending shivers down the spine of anyone who knew about the story. Story 3: Porcelain Doll Wedding. In a small valley on the border between two towns, the peaceful village had arranged a dream wedding. Gianna and Asher, who had known each other since childhood, finally decided to tie their lives together. The wedding was held at Asher's family's ancient mansion, a large villa with expansive gardens and thick walls steeped in history. Asher, an avid collector of antiques, decided to decorate the hall with his collection of porcelain dolls. These were not ordinary dolls. They had very expressive faces and wore exquisitely detailed classical attire. Though Gianna knew Asher was a bit eccentric, she loved him unconditionally and agreed to have these dolls be a part of their special day. The wedding took place on a damp autumn day, with thick fog enveloping the mansion. Guests gathered in the hall, where the dim light from the candles created a mystical and antiquated atmosphere. The dolls were arranged to sit interspersed among the rows of seats as if they too were guests. During the ring exchange ceremony, one of the guests, a man named Michael, began to show strange behaviors. He stared intently at one of the dolls and started whispering to himself. People around him didn't pay much attention, thinking Michael was just marveling at the strange beauty of the arrangement. However, as the reception began, Michael became increasingly unstable. He seemed to be talking to the dolls, sometimes laughing and screaming. People started to worry, but Asher quickly intervened, leading Michael outside to calm him. There, Michael confessed to Asher that he felt the dolls were talking to him, that they felt neglected and wanted to be free. Though puzzled, Asher remained calm and took Michael back to his hotel room, calling a family friend who was a psychiatrist to examine him. The treatment revealed that Michael had experienced a severe incident in the past, causing him to lose part of his memory and develop a rare psychological syndrome where he formed deep relationships with objects, especially dolls, which he regarded as real friends. While Asher tried to handle the situation with Michael, Gianna felt a chilling air spread through the hall. She began to realize that although the dolls looked beautiful, they seemed to carry an ominous, unnamed weight. With Michael's absence, the dolls became even more terrifying in the flickering candlelight. The wedding continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Guests started leaving early, and Gianna felt an inexplicable unease. She decided to confront Asher about using the dolls in their wedding. Asher admitted that he had been drawn to their beauty, but did not expect that they could negatively affect the guests. That night, when things had settled down, Gianna and Asher decided to clean up the hall. As they approached the row of seats with the dolls, a sudden cold wind blew through, knocking over some of the dolls. Shattered on the floor inside some of the dolls were carefully rolled old pieces of paper. Curious, they decided to open them. Each piece of paper contained handwritten, scribbled descriptions of sad and mysterious events from the mansion's past. Stories about people who had once lived there and had mysteriously disappeared. As the truth began to unfold, Asher realized that his hobby of collecting dolls was not just a passion. Perhaps the dolls had been retaining pieces of life, memories that had been forgotten within the heart of the old house. Gianna and Asher decided together to bury the broken pieces under the large tree in the garden, hoping that they could release the wandering souls and bring peace to the house. Their wedding, although it ended in unexpected circumstances, left them with a profound lesson about appreciating the present and understanding the past. They knew that their lives would forever be marked by the mysteries uncovered on this significant day. Yet Gianna and Asher felt a strange consolation in knowing that they had tried to free the spirits around them, bringing peace to themselves and the house.